Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTv News, expanding your view.
Hello and welcome to CoreTv News on the Hour. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. The ceaseless season of bombing has continued, with Bauchi emerging the latest victim. The explosion, which occurred at People's Hotel Bethel, Bayangari in the state capital, claimed 10 lives and left 28 people wounded. Spokesman of the police in the state, Haruna Mohammed, says the blast occurred overnight, but the source was still unknown. The entire building has since been cordoned off and the scene secured. The corpses of the deceased, Mohammed says, had been deposited at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, same hospital where the 14 injured victims are receiving treatment. CoreTv News learned that 5 people clad in military uniform executed the attack by detonating explosives and shooting at random, as many gathered to watch the highlights of the ongoing FIFA World Cup at the viewing center located in between the 2-story building of the hotel housing the Bethel. Meanwhile, the Bauchi State Police Commissioner Lawal Shehu says one suspect has been arrested in connection with the attack. He urged members of the public to be security conscious and to observe happenings within their immediate environment. Some of the survivors of Wednesday's bombing of a shopping plaza in Abuja has been transferred to the National Hospital. This is to ensure they get specialist treatment at Nigeria's premier health facility. But 2 of the initial survivors have now died at the hospital, bringing the death toll to 24.
Since the bomb attack on the popular Iman Plaza in the Nigerian capital, medical teams at health facilities like these have been working around the clock to stabilize survivors. Joseph is one of the most stable victims at the National Hospital. He is one of those moved here, and after a few days, he is strong enough to remember what happened on that day.
At that moment, I was with one of my brothers. So my brother is a security there. So immediately I just left him. I heard the sound of bomb blast, and by then I was heading to my own cyber cafe. So and I discovered that bomb blast started turning me up and down. So the next thing, I started running from one place to another, and I later found out that my brother is dead and I'm alive. That is where they brought me here.
He is now on his way to full recovery, but his brother, who he was visiting when the bomber struck, did not survive. In spite of his loss, he is still praying for the people who carried out the attack.
To them, so that God should intervene in their life, because it not favor this country. It's happening everywhere. It's not good. So I'm begging God to intervene them. Already my brother is dead now. Even as I'm alive now, I don't even know what to do because he's the one feeding me.
Joseph is one of 11 bomb victims still receiving treatment at the National Hospital. Many of them were brought in with burns. Some came with fractured limbs. The hospital management says 2 of the initial survivors have now died.
Well, what I said, that in all now, with the 4 transfer from Wuse and the Mitam Hospital, we have 11 here and now. But out of the 11, of course, we've lost about 2 of them. Presently, so we'll see. We discharge 1. We have 1 in the ICU, and we have other here in the hospital. Others ones are stable. We will most likely will also discharge another 1 later today.
Contact with bomb victims at the National Hospital was restricted. We CoreTv allowed access to only 1 ward, but the management is convinced that it's only a matter of days before majority of these survivors are well enough to be back on their feet.
FCT authorities have directed the police to arrest and prosecute anyone found riding power bikes and motorcycles in the Abuja city center. This, according to FCT Minister Bala Mohammed, is part of efforts to stem the tide of terrorism and other crimes. The minister conveyed the directive to the FCT Police Commissioner Joseph Mbo through a letter dated June 27, 2014. FCT authorities reminded the police that the ban on the use of power bikes and motorcycles in the federal capital city was still in force. The reminder, according to the minister, is underscored by the fact that one of the suspected bombers of Emma Plaza was seen on a power bike by security agents. Mohammed also directed that all security personnel using motorcycles should obtain permits from the FCT Commissioner of Police and the Transportation Secretariat. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has advised Boko Haram fighters to abandon violence against innocent people once and for all as the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins. In a goodwill message to Muslims issued by his media office, the former vice president said the war between Boko Haram fighters and government forces has caused enough grief and created so many orphans and widows. He also called for immediate ceasefire and negotiations to bring the fighting to a permanent end. Atiku added that if the insurgents are truly committed to God and his religion, then it was high time they had a rethink over the violent activities against innocent people. Away from security, the June 21 governorship election in Ekiti State has been adjudged the first and fairest recently. The Independent National Electoral Commission is being commended over its performance. The successful outing was attributed to the scientific approach to political matters by INEC and politicians. Our Ekiti State correspondent Rashid spoke with the National Commissioner of INEC.
Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Lai Olurode, said that elections in Nigeria is no more a game as usual, but a scientific engagement for any serious-minded player in the electoral process.
Elections are more about science. They are also more about discretion, deployment of your discretion in ways that are helpful. What are the elements of a science of election? The first element of a science of election is predictability. Predictability is very important. You must be able to put your eyes on ground, you must be able to put your ears on ground, and you must be able to discern what are the forces that will shape the outcome of an election.
Olurode attributed the success of INEC in the just concluded governorship election in Ekiti State to its ability to play a neutral role in the emergence of the winner, a strategy he calls the science of believability.
A scientific process is that of believability. Of course, there have been governors that won elections before in this country and they were not able to celebrate. They couldn't even stay in the state where they won elections because Nigerians or the people in that state did not believe they actually won that election. You can look at the backlash after the event of June 21st. Everywhere was quiet because we didn't do any Caesarean election. It's not an election by Caesarean operation.
He boasts on the performance of INEC in the last election, noting that it can be replicated in every other election by any other team with the same desired result.
Repetitiveness. You know, in science, when you go to a laboratory, you do an experiment. It must be possible for another scientist other than you to repeat the same experiment and to come out with the same outcome. I can tell you if any other person from the moon, from Europe, from England, come to organize the election as we did on June 21, he or she will come to the same conclusion.
Now that the All Progressives Congress is heading to courts to challenge the election process, alleging a faulty process, many are questioning the decision of the APC, given that the election received both local and international commendation. Rashid, CoreTv News, Ado Ekiti.
Lagos-based lawyer Monde Obani has also commended the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for a peaceful conduct of the just concluded governorship election in Ekiti State. He, however, warned against the militarization of subsequent elections in Nigeria.
The impression we got from independent local and international observers who observed the Ekiti election was that it was a reflection of the people's mandate. The choice of the people was Ayo Fayose, and they trooped out en masse and so much enthusiasm, even though we are not ignorant of the fact that there are so many presence of military men in that electoral process, which also something that we must balance and be careful about, because this is democracy. the electoral process should be seen to be very free and fair, and we don't over-militarize the environment. There were allegations of arrest of stakeholders of APC before the election date and all that. Some were denied entry into the city, while others were allowed. So these are some of the allegations that were made against that election. He said, but INEC generally improved, on what took place in Ekiti State, and the issue of irregularities were so minor as to not affect the result of that election itself. There were some minor hitches here and there, but generally the issue of logistics, they improved upon it. The issue of having the ballot papers and ballot boxes on time, and even electoral materials, and then the electoral officers being there on time. They started on time, and then the people were there. They trooped out en masse.
He also cautioned APC over its decision to challenge the result of the election in court, saying the incumbent governor, Kayode Fayemi, has publicly conceded defeat in the election.
Now, it is very difficult at times for the court to overrule INEC in elections which, if we usually think is not regular. It has happened several times. You look at many elections that have taken place where INEC has declared somebody a winner. It is difficult for the court to overturn that particular result. Then, let alone in an election that generally everyone appraised that election was almost free and fair, like what took place in Ekiti State. So the APC now going to court, even when the major stakeholder or the front line runner has considered defeat, looks like an aberration, and something that does not in any way fall in line with the commendation that Fayemi received, when he considered defeat and then commended his opponent. So there is a matter of proof. Whoever asserts must prove. Whoever alleges must prove. So if they think they can succeed, let them go to court. But the point is that Nigerians' mood at this time is that don't allow any distraction for this man that the people have spoken in favor of the majority of the Ekitians.
A Lagos-based legal practitioner Monday Ubani bearing his mind on the Ekiti election. You're watching CoreTv News live from Lagos. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with stories outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
From time immemorial, women have birthed life, shaped character, and by extension, influenced the society. Moremi of Ife, Emoten of Benin, Queen Aminat of Zaria, all women of influence and power.
Whether it's before election, after election.
How ironical. Women being so powerful, yet have few grounds in decision making.
They see you as a wife, and I see you as a wife to a man.
We are talking women in politics.
A woman will be bold enough to stand up and say, I want to become president of Nigeria.
Only on CoreTv News.
Glad to have you back. The United Nations Environment Assembly says protecting humanity's life support system is integral to sustainable development. Ban Ki-moon says it's the duty of all to safeguard the environment.
Today, there is a common acceptance among governments and people that a healthy environment is necessary for eradicating poverty and supporting equitable economic growth and social progress. At UNIA this week, you have deliberated on many important topics, including the Sustainable Development Goals, the consumption and production patterns, the environmental rule of law, and illegal trade in timber and wildlife. The message is clear. Protecting humanity's life support system is integral to sustainable development, and it is a duty for all.
That report wraps it on CoreTv News at this hour. Join us again at the top of the hour for more stories. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. Thanks for being there.